Peace Region. Here's your host, Dub Craig.
Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm Dub Craig. Later on, my co-host for the day and co-host on the morning show, Catarina Costa, sat down for an extended conversation with Connie Greyeyes of the Indian Residential School Survivors Society. They discuss Red Dress Day and missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirited people, and the importance of remembering them and keeping their stories alive. But first, the BC government has pledged to roll back at least some of their drug decriminalization pilot program. To discuss her thoughts on the rollback and how it'll affect our community, I'm joined now by the mayor of Fort St. John, Lilia Hansen. Lilia, welcome back to This Week in the Peace.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for taking a few minutes for us. I want to start just kind of with your general thoughts on what the government has announced. They said they're going to take back in this pilot project that I think a lot of people have been criticizing, especially lately.
Yeah. You know, if I can be upfront, I truly do not believe this should have been on the table at all, like not from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a complex issue. It's one that requires compassion, but it's something that should not have been even an option. Open drug use in our public spaces like our parks, our playgrounds, bus stops, that is something that I don't think anyone, even with those that have families that are suffering with this health issue, want to see.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's to say that when they first even announced that this is what they were going to do, you were already like, nah, this is not going to help, and this is not going to be what the government hopes it's going to be.
And often, you know, with the motivation to do good, there's unintended consequences. Sometimes when things are rushed through in haste, because it has been identified as a health crisis. I'm not saying it was overlooked, but I think it should have had another set of eyes on it to say, you know, have you given thought as to what this could mean to communities? Mm-hmm. Municipalities throughout the province, you know, when we heard about what was proposed and what was enacted, as time went on, you know, we could see firsthand, you know, what these consequences were, and we would hear from our residents and from our business community. And it's something that if we don't allow smoking or drinking in our parks, why are we allowing the use of illicit drugs? Like, that's at a whole other level.
Mm-hmm. What do you think then the government maybe should have done and going forward should be doing? As you said, you know, there is a lot of room for compassion, and we should be compassionate, and we should be looking for solutions. What do you expect from the government, and what would you like the government to be doing on this issue rather than what they're now pulling back and what they've done already?
I do believe that the provincial government, and I'm grateful for it, they listened to municipalities. Last year, as we were rolling into September, is when municipalities go down to Vancouver. We have our speed dating sessions down at UBCM, which is Union of BC Municipalities. A couple of weeks prior, the provincial government did hear strong and loud from municipalities to saying, you know, there's a lot of things you're doing. We understand you're trying to do something different to see if that will work to crack, you know, the stalemate that we're in on this. They did try to roll it back. Mm-hmm. Regrettably, there was pushback from a nurses union, and they went to the courts, and the courts said sorry to the provincial government, but, you know, we're now not going to allow you to roll it back. So for them going to the federal government to say, okay, let's take this to the next level. Like, we're hearing from municipalities and from our citizens of the province that this is something that they have concerns about. You know, how do we change that? So I'm glad that they're doing that.
Mm-hmm. There is, you know, it seemed that this would come out every once in a while when there'd be an incident, or even not really, that the municipalities and Fort St. John didn't have any tools in your belt, and local RCMP are in the same boat to really deal with problem like, as you mentioned, open drug use and whatnot because of the way this was all rolled out. I think there was an act, and I'm blanking on the name of it, that there was call for, can we maybe make this available for municipalities?
Possibly the Community Safety Act and the Community Amendment Act.
Thank you, yeah. Are you still thinking that that would be something you'd still like to see even as the government rolls things back?
We're definitely still advocating for it, and I'm glad that you brought into the conversation the RCMP. When residents would call or businesses would call to say, hey, there's somebody that's, smoking drugs right in my doorway or behind my office and my staff is trying to get to their vehicle, their hands are really tied. It's not that they don't want to attend, but if it's not something criminal, what are they going to do other than come along and try and usher them along and provide them information as to where they can access services on that. And when you have a crisis and somebody is trying to find a way to continue to meet the needs that their body is craving, and I'm not a healthcare professional, I'm not a doctor, I don't have all the specific facts, but when you're craving something and you don't have money, you're going to look for ways to how to purchase, for your next fix, and that's causing issues in our community. The RCMP, they want to help as well. What can we do when it's in the court systems? What can we do to help our health community and professionals? I believe that with the good intentions that the provincial government do have, we need to have those pillars and that bedrock in place. When somebody's asking for help, they're like, okay, I am ready. I need help. I'm ready to take the next steps and do the hard work. We need to have access for detox. Where do you go? The closest place is Prince George or Grand Prairie, but that's if they have room, and then you're dealing with two provinces. We also need to have access to affordable for recovery beds. And I do understand, as we work through budgets, even at a municipal level, you're trying to pool your resources and get the most money that you can. And it's my understanding that provincial government is trying to centralize resources, but all communities deserve access to health care. Whether you're rural, whether you're urban, we need to have something here. But even in Prince George or through the province, we don't have those amenities that we need. So we need to have those wraparound services for when somebody says, okay, I'm ready to do the tough work.
I know there's some other political parties on the provincial level anyway have proposed what they would be doing instead, and that's part of it. So you would be obviously in favor of much more investment in rehab, for example, drug detox. Do you think then the government should be giving that choice to municipalities as to how that money is spent then? So, Fort St. John, they give this much money, what you need best, or is it more a consultation? I guess my more specific question is, what are you expecting? What would you want the government to do specifically on this in, for example, providing funding for some of these things like a detox or rehabilitation services in Fort St. John?
Healthcare falls under the mandate of the provincial government. Yeah. I'm not looking to take on anybody else's role or job on that. They have specialists and healthcare professionals that have more knowledge on this. I do believe that we do need those resources. We have several nonprofit groups in the area. We've got Northwinds that's trying to open up a center over towards Puskupi. It's leveraging those organizations that are ready to hit the ground running. They need that help or that support. What can we do to look at that? It's not a one size fits all. I definitely don't believe you can paint the entire province with the same brush. It's not the same solutions in the Lower Mainland as it will be here.
All right. If you don't mind, I just want to take another quick second here because it's sort of related. But, of course, the Fort St. John hospital had the emergency room services interrupted yesterday. So I know we've talked about this again. We've talked about this with former councils. And this has been a problem that's been building for years and years. From your perspective, what sort of contact do you even have with the Ministry of Health, with the Minister Adrian Dix, in saying, this is happening. It's happened now twice, kind of a month apart. it may happen more. What are you doing about this to make this situation better? Because we are a hub for healthcare in Northeast BC here, and our emergency room can't be closed.
Yeah, when they do the diversions. I've been raised here. Fort St. John's my hometown, and I don't know if I just wasn't as aware of it before. Growing up here, I don't remember this happening.
Yeah.
For this latest diversion, I wasn't contacted. A couple of about 2 months ago when we had the last diversion.
Yeah.
I did have a call, and I really appreciate that. I was able to notify council and start putting the word out. I think it's important that when residents are in a crisis, you're heading to the hospital, you want to know before you pack up your kids or your loved one and you start heading to the hospital. We have to make sure that communication is out there, and that's an important piece.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Mayor Hansen, I'm really appreciative that you took a few minutes of your time with me today. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You're very welcome. That's Mayor Lilia Hansen joining me on This Week in the Peace this morning. We'll be right back with Catarina Costa's interview with Connie Greyeyes right after this.
Powerful and reliable, Kubota compact tractors are built for those who do. Mow, till, grade, and haul this spring. Get more power starting at $19,885. See your Kubota dealer for details.
Every month, your furry friend can win a $100 credit to the North Peace Veterinary Clinic. All you have to do is get the perfect pose of your pet and upload it from the 1st to the 14th at moosefm.ca/win. On the 15th, voting starts, and by month end, your fur baby can be crowned Pet of the Month.
Moose FM and the North Peace Veterinary Clinic want to see all your fluffy, scaly, and feathery pets every month. moosefm.ca/win to enter.
Hi, MLA Dan Davies here. If you're a senior, I'm hoping you will join me for my second annual Free Seniors Expo on June 13th at the Pomeroy Hotel. Doors open at 11:30 a.m. Please call my office for more information and to RSVP at 250-263-0101. 263-0101.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Get your phone ready because 100.1 Moose FM and Carter's Jewelers are bringing you the Selfie with Mom contest. Visit moosefm.ca/mom, share a selfie you've taken with your mother, and tell us all the reasons why she's amazing. If you do, your mom will have a chance to win an awesome prize pack, including a $1,000 gift card from Carter's and a pair of tickets to Big Valley Jamboree. Show your mom some love this Mother's Day while showing her off to the world. For more details, visit moosefm.ca/mom. The Carter's Jewelers A Selfie with Your Mom contest is supported by FSJ Returnant, The Flower Hut, Lake Point Golf and Country Club, Backcountry, Petite Pedal Company, and the Hairbin Salon and Barbershop.
If you're looking for hassle-free internet services, call the Peace Region Internet Society today. With coverage throughout most of the Peace, PRIS can get you connected quickly without the hassle of contracts or bundles. Visit PRIS.ca or call 1-800-768-3311 for more information.
Hey Alexa, let there be light.
Here's some sunshine for you.
Hi, I'm Coy from Alpine Glass Windows and Doors, where we can help you experience light exactly when you want it. With PowerView automation, you'll get precise and convenient control of your Hunter Douglas window treatments. Shades operate independently, moving only when you choose to schedule them. To learn more about PowerView automation for your Hunter Douglas window treatments, stop in and see us. Visit us online at alpinewindows.ca.
Help make a difference. The Fort St. John Hospital Foundation invites the community to participate in the annual Bluey Day fundraiser, now in its 25th year. Join as an individual, family, or a team. Collect donations in support of cancer diagnostics and treatment. On Bluey Day, May 25th, you will be brave and shave and show support for all those who have been touched by cancer in one way or another. Follow us on Facebook or call 250-261-7563 or visit fsjhospitalfoundation.ca. The Fort St. John Hospital Foundation is proudly supported by 100.1 Moose FM.
At Peaceful Pages, not only will you find a large selection of Bibles, devotionals, and faith-based books, but they also carry a collection of Christian clothing, home decor, giftware, and jewelry. Peaceful Pages Christian Bookstore, open Tuesday to Saturday at 101 Avenue, Fort St. John.
Moose Country weather.
Today you can expect a high of 15 degrees with a chance of showers throughout the afternoon. Later tonight, 2 degrees, and tomorrow sun's going to come back out. Couple clouds, high of 15 again, and on Sunday, high of 18 and sunny skies.
You're listening to the all-new This Week in the Peace. Be a part of the show by texting your thoughts to the Fort City Chrysler line at 250-787-2222.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Dov Craig. It's Red Dress Day on Sunday, a day to remember and honor missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirited peoples. So, Catarina Costa, my co-host from the morning show, sat down with Connie Greyeyes of the Indian Residential School Survivor Society to discuss the importance of the day and how important it is to continue to remember those who are missing or murdered, and also in telling their stories. Here's that conversation.
I'm Catarina, and I am here with Connie Greyeyes. She's the Indian Residential School Survivor Society Northern Region MMIWG2S Plus Coordinator. Did I get that all?
You certainly did.
I want to start by just saying thank you for taking the time and making time to have this conversation. I really want to focus on Red Dress Day, which is coming up in just a couple days here, Connie. Let's talk about Red Dress Day and what it is first. So Red Dress Day can be traced back to the powerful art project of Canadian Métis artist Jamie Black. That's kind of what started this movement for Red Dress Day. And this is essentially, she put up red dresses all across town to signify how many missing women there were that were Indigenous, right? This is from Amnesty International, by the way, and it's kind of taken its way throughout Canada. Now, how do we bridge the gap between this one day of talking about how many missing and murdered Indigenous women we have to a continuous conversation about this?
There's a few ways that gap can be closed. And certainly probably the most significant one is calling out those behaviors, that dismiss the facts that we are 3 to 5 times more likely to go missing, that there isn't alarm bells rang when we go missing. I had a friend that did kind of a test to see if, in fact, when an Indigenous woman went missing, whether or not they got the same amount of shares as a non-Indigenous woman. And it was painfully clear that, the non-Indigenous woman's missing poster didn't get the same amount of shares. And why is that? What's the difference? And we really have to take a look at ourselves and think as to why, the events surrounding Red Dress Day, the Sisters in Spirit vigils, the February 14th day of, missing and murdered women and girls. Why does the majority of the community not show up for those events, but will come in droves to other things? For instance, when they were having the big rallies against COVID and, why is that? And people really need to take a deep look at themselves as to why some things just aren't important. And that's painfully clear. As an Indigenous woman myself, I know that's a fact. There's also, when you see people on social media dismissing it or being racist, call them out. It's silence speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
When I see things on my friends, that my friends have commented on something that's like so nonsense and just racist, and the comments aren't calling that person out or making a laughing comment, that tells me who you really are. I regularly remove people from my social media because I don't want to see it. I don't need to see that, and I don't need to have people that see me as a token Indian. And those things actually do affect me, and I work really hard to try not to read comments. I don't particularly steer towards any kinds of news or anything that's regarding lands or anything regarding Indigenous people of this territory, because I don't want to read those comments, because not only because they're hard to read, But because it's even more difficult when you see people that you have admired or were friends with siding with that and making those terrible comments.
So you refer to social media, I think, a lot, right?
I do, yeah.
How do you think that someone can start that conversation on social media? You mentioned racist comments, you mentioned, posts and a whole bunch of different kind of things that we probably interact with on social media. How would you suggest to bridge the gap there?
Recently, I'm going to use this as an example. Recently, there was a couple young ladies that made a post from the Lone Star bar, assumingly, and that they didn't go missing. My cousin, Renee, is somebody that is currently missing, along with her cousin, Darlene, and Cole. It's those insensitive comments that people just laughed off. I seen a lot of people comment that, it was in jest, it was just a joke, they never meant anything by it. It's that kind of brush off of things like that really make this issue even harder to navigate. I seen comments like, they're really good people. In my world, good people don't mock missing people, missing women, missing Indigenous women, or missing men in any way, shape, or form. And the amount of people that actually supported that post and defended them is ridiculous. Like, what kind of people joke about that?
Now that Red Dress Day is kind of around the corner, and I anticipate that people in the community will be participating, right? And hopefully there have been lessons learned on social media and other platforms. What happens beyond Red Dress Day? How do we continuously bring awareness to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls?
One way is, I help with the powwow and the round dances, and those events are open to everyone. I would say, like, there is a lot of non-Indigenous people that come, but to help break that stereotype of Indigenous people, I encourage people to come down and check it out, see who we really are, listen to the drumming and those things that truly are part of our culture and our being. To maybe break those stereotypes that people might have of Indigenous people, the one when missing women happen, oh, she's drinking and partying. Meanwhile, the family is telling you they would never do that. They would never take off on their kids for this long, or they wouldn't be in contact, right? And it's part of that reconciliation of coming together and really trying to understand who we are, both non-Indigenous and Indigenous. There's a lot of people that I know that make really insensitive comments about non-Indigenous people too, and other races in Canada. And if we don't start to call each other out and truly try to get some understanding of that culture and who we really are, then it's only going to get worse. I think that, while days, obviously, like Red Dress Day, Orange Shirt Day, the Sisters in Spirit Vigils that happen on October 4th, those are all very important gatherings to raise awareness. But like you just said, like that has to be more than just one day. Why can't we be like that every day? I work really hard in my life to try to be a kind and compassionate and good human being. You know what? I have my moments when somebody like really gets under my skin. Sometimes I lash out on social media.
Who doesn't?
I'm human, right? But those are never directed at a race or a group of people. And I think that if we don't start to call out those behaviors and it becomes normalized, that's where the real issue lies.
I want to circle back to, first of all, the powwows that you help organize. Beautiful events. I've attended quite a few of them. myself and my son. He loves it. It's a very healing rhythm to be in, and energy to be in, and I highly recommend visiting and going. But you said, I'm human. And at the end of the day, we are all human. And I think that's where the compassion comes in, right? To understand one another. And I think that's really such a big focus beyond Red Dress Day, is that this missing woman or this missing man, they could be our sister, they could be our cousin, or our children, unfortunately, right? I want to read a statistic, and I want your initial thoughts on it.
Okay.
So this is from the Aboriginal Alert website, which is just aboriginalalert.ca. So taking a look back on 2022, we're saddened by the sheer amount of Indigenous people that were reported missing in Canada. Just on Aboriginal Alert alone, 931 missing alerts of Indigenous people were added in 12 months. Many were located, but too many were found deceased, and disturbingly, 141 individuals are still missing. How does that speak to you?
You know, being an advocate for so many years, you know, I was involved with going to Parliament and rallying and fighting for the National Inquiry. These numbers are not abnormal for us. You know, there's families in this region that have several missing or murdered family members. I was talking to one of my non-Indigenous friends, and she said to me, I don't even know one person that's gone missing or have been murdered. Whereas I know dozens. You know, and when she said that to me, it was like a punch in the gut that, you know, this is not sadly a shocking statistic for us. It's a reality for many Indigenous families across Turtle Island, and it shouldn't be. You know, there's so many times, and I want to kind of give a little bit more into that there's reasons behind it. You know, since time immemorial, since first contact, this country has been shown how to treat Indigenous people. Residential schools, day schools, the hospitals, all created to take away who we are. And in doing that, turning it that, you know, Indigenous people are savages and we're less than, and our lives don't matter as much, which is, you and I both know, and the majority of good people know that that's not true. But it plays into why it's so easy for us to go missing without there being any alerts, or without, you know, if it wasn't for all of these Indigenous organizations like the Red Alert, there would be so many times where people wouldn't know at all that people have gone missing. I myself have had a cousin that was murdered in Edmonton in 1993. She's really the reason that that I started to really think about this, because there was a time in my life where it was never, like, even residential schools, I don't even know anything about that, but whatever, right? I was young, dumb, and over my lifetime now I've learned that I need to know about these things. I need to be educated on it, because one day that could be my family or me in those situations. I'm a daughter of both residential school survivors, and I'm also a family member of women that are missing or have been murdered. And, you know, I wish that people could really understand that the history behind our relationship with the country of Canada is not a good one. You know, there's been local people that are kind of, well, I wouldn't really even say well known, but outspoken, that have said, you know, those were good for you guys. That they were trying to do good, and to hear that is just, you know, when I think back, I can't even imagine what my mom and dad went through. And so, you know, going back to that, this country has learned how to treat us. And there's a reason that, you know, we go missing in such high numbers. We're viewed as disposable. to be honest. You know, when you find young children in garbage bags in the Red River, where, you know, there was opportunities to save her, and they didn't. You know, like it brings tears to my eyes when I think about her.
Yeah.
And I think about, you know, ladies that have gone missing in Edmonton. There's one where, you know, she was on the phone and it was recorded, and she was asking, "Where are you taking me?" You know, and so sadly, you know, those statistics don't faze me anymore, because I know and I've experienced it myself. You know, there's I don't know, by the grace of the Creator, I've been spared. And that's the truth. My sisters and I, and my nieces and my nephews, I have had a nephew that has been murdered in Charlie Lake. He's somebody that, you know, we loved deeply, and you know, the trauma that goes along with that. So when there is events like May 5th, the Red Dress Day, or the October 4th vigils, it is so important to come out there, and whether you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, to come out there and show that you care, you care that this mother is missing her daughter, or this mother is missing her son, or the grandparents or aunties and uncles. Because I can't tell you how much that can help somebody, just seeing people there to say, you know what, I care for you, and I care about your child missing. I care about that your child has been murdered, and I'm here for you. And it's a simple gesture, you know. It takes no real effort at all to get in your vehicle and drive down to where a vigil or a march is being held, and walk in solidarity with families.
I think I need a moment, because that, I can't believe, you know, sometimes we overlook things like this as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter. Like, I can't imagine. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, you've, you know, spoken about calling out those comments and getting in your vehicle. Now, let's say right now, immediate action and conversations, how and where do we start?
You know what? You start at your kitchen table. You start with your circle of friends. You know, there's no easier way to weed out the people that have those terrible thoughts or racist tendencies than to bring up a conversation about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, residential schools, you know, talking about the TRC or the final report of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Women and Girls. That's where those conversations have to start. You know, share those posters of Red Dress Day. Share those missing women's posters, because that's how we get the message out there. You know, I don't know, I call it like this. It was a chance encounter with somebody very famous. And through that chance encounter, you know, we talked about missing and murdered women and girls in Canada, and how many we have. And it got millions of views, and it got the word out there. You know, people were talking about it. People were talking about the issue. And it was something as simple as a conversation that happened. Those are the real catalysts into making change. Every single person, you know, you have the ability yourself to, just with this, to reach so many people, you know, and it could be one thing, or it could be a couple things that they hear that might go, okay, you know what, I'm going to try. And I can understand, or I can empathize with how these families must be feeling. You know, years ago, a young lady went missing from Fort St. John, and they, you know, there was a big rally, a big march, and a missing persons sign. And I had a family member message me, and they asked me, like, why didn't they do that for my mom? And I don't know how to answer that. I do, but I don't want to. And it's those tough conversations that I have with family members. And you know, I feel like I was brought into this world specifically to help raise awareness. You know, to show that, you know, a person that has my history with alcohol and drug addiction can come out of that and make meaningful change and steer myself on the red road, a good path, to help guide others and you know, have these conversations that we're having right now, because they're so important. And they start with literally one conversation with somebody can catalyst into it reaching so many more.
Connie, I want to thank you again for making time. Before we finish up, I just want to ask, is there anything else you want to add? Anything, call to action, perhaps?
You know, on May 5th, this Sunday, there is going to be a free hair braiding workshop where we have the beautiful Evan Kudrelli that is going to talk about the importance of Indigenous hair and braiding. And it kind of came about over a young man in the States that had his hair cut off and then was found deceased. And, you know, I have had myself, my own son, be ridiculed at school for his hair. And my grandson also gets teased about his long, beautiful braids. And I think that it's a really important, you know, a really important kind of workshop that we're going to have on May 5th, starting at 10 at the Treaty 8 Tribal Association, followed by a walk that is going to be led by Nina Denez Adizona, Child and Family Services. Come and check it out. You know, come have some soup and bannock. If you've never had bannock, you know, but it's those kinds of things, you know. I think that the hair braiding is going to be fabulous. I think it's an important message for youth. You know, when my son was teased about his hair at school, I went in and we went before the school and talked about the importance of his hair. And, you know, it's those kinds of really good conversations that can happen. And we're hoping that hair braiding workshop, we're providing everything as well as kits to take home with you, with elastics and hairspray and, you know, all the things that you need to make beautiful braids. And, you know, it's those kinds of opportunities to have a chat too. To sit like we used to in the old days, you know, when they used to beat. I can't beat. I wrecked all of my good beating years by being an alcoholic and drug addict. I was like, oh man. But, you know, it's a really good opportunity to stop and check it out, learn about Red Dress Day, and maybe learn a skill or two about French braids. Or we have a young lady that's taking the hairdressing course at North Peace that's going to be there, and my good friend Lori, who just won Bold Woman of the Month.
Yes.
She is going to also be there. And we have a lovely lady from Dawson that's going to call in about the teachings about braids. So, you know, I encourage anybody to come on over to the Treaty 8 Tribal Association on Sunday at 10 and join in. And, you know, you might learn a thing or two. And if not, you'll still have some real deadly soup and bannock.
Thank you very much, Connie.
You're welcome.
That was Catarina Costa's interview and chat with Connie Greyeyes of the Indian Residential School Survivors Society. Very big thanks to Connie for being here, as well as the Mayor of Fort St. John, Lilia Hansen, and a big thanks to Catarina Costa for that important interview with Connie. You can listen to this show again by checking out the podcast over at Energeticcity.ca/podcast. You'll store this and future episodes and past episodes there. You can also check out our other locally produced podcasts, Before the Peace and Secrets of the North, as well. That's our show for today. I'm Dub Craig. Be well.
Join us again next Friday morning at 10 for another edition of This Week in the Peace, your weekly talk show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace Region. Or you can listen to this podcast again at Energeticcity.ca.